Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We're your hosts, Bree Gabrielle and
Captain Rick Murphy.
Oh, good, you got it. And this week it's all about grouper, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Bree. You know what? But we got the experts standing by on the line.
We do.
But I do want to ask you, this weekend you did a little event for Starbright. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, Dave and I, we were up in Grant. It was a Sea Safe event, and it was so much fun. I brought my daughter Mia. You can see her throwing clams into the Indian River Lagoon there. She got to plant her own mangroves. She had such a blast. There were other kids that were just like loving the vertical oyster gardens they had us made. There's Dave and I. But it was a great time, a great event. We went up on Saturday. It was a 4-day event though. So I know Dave was actually there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So Dave, did you have anything to add to that event that we went up to?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, that whole thing, you know, Corey Redwine is, you know, her passion drives that whole project. That and Starbright and CCA Florida, they're a big part of it as well. It's just, you know, they're just doing so many good things with the clam restoration and the mangrove restoration and the turtle rescue and the shore cleanups. They just do an incredible job with everything they do, and a lot of that's Corey's fault. She's just an amazing person.
Absolutely. Okay, well, 'tis this grouper season in the Casa Vieja Lodge Southeast region, and Captain Jimbo Thomas has plenty to talk about, so go for it, Jimbo.
Hey, Bree and Rick and Dave. Yep, the grouper, they've been left alone for the last 4 months, so there's no excuse for not catching any of those today. Now, the main grouper species that we target in the Southeast region are black, gag, and red. And there are some deep water ones, but those are the shallow water ones that we mostly target. There's a few different ways to go about catching them. One of the most productive methods, and one of my favorites, is to troll deep diving plugs over the tops of the reef, anywhere from 15 to 50 feet of water. Any big lip deep diving lure will work. You can also fish rig ballyhoo behind a planer or a wire line outfit to get your baits down in that grouper strike zone. Best trolling speeds are 3 to 5 knots. You want to use some heavy tackle and a tight drag. When a grouper does bite, he's going to try and get down in the reef. So you want to keep the boat moving to try and pull him out of the structure. Drifting over some good structure, wrecks, and ledges in 80 to 250 feet of water or deeper is also a great way to target groupers. You can use live baits such as pinfish, blue runners, grunts, and speedos. Or you can drop jigs, butterfly jigs, deep jigs with a ballyhoo, drop those down on the same structure and hopefully catch a grouper. And the basic rig for live bait is a long 80 to 100 pound mono leader and an 8/0 to 10/0 circle hook. You want to put on enough lead just to hold bottom. And you can even try anchoring over that same bottom structure and use that same long leader with a live or cut bait, and you can let that bait sit still right on the bottom. Now, most of the grouper that come out of the deep water in the 15 to 20 pound range, and on the reef, they're mixed sizes from sub-legal on up. Got a photo here. This is Zach Salyers with a nice red grouper. Unfortunately, this fish was caught out of season, so it had to be released. Hopefully, he can find them over this weekend and catch them again.
All right.
Now, staying offshore, if anybody ever wanted to catch a sailfish and get it off their bucket list, right now is a great time to do it. In the last week, the sailfish bite has been excellent, which typically isn't common for the springtime. And as long as we got north current and blue water, they should continue to bite. Most of the bites are coming from live baits, herrings, goggle eyes, pilchards, sardines. You want to fish them under the kite, anywhere from 100 to even 300 feet of water. There's also been a lot of multiple hookups. So when you do get a bite, try to leave your other baits out. Hopefully you get another bite and get a multiple there. It's also a good idea to put a deep or midline down, because we've had a couple of sail bites down on the deep line the last couple of weeks. You might get a grouper down there too. Got another photo here, and this is a sail that ate a flat line, and it was tagged and released aboard the Thomas Flyer using some pin tackle there.
There you go, looking good.
Moving inshore, there's been some big sea trout being caught on the grass flats of the ICW and in North and South Biscayne Bay. These big trout are schooling up to spawn. Some of these fish have been up to 26, 27 inches, roughly 4 to 6 pounds. Some of the better areas are the flats in North Biscayne Bay between 79th Street and Hulliver Inlet. And then in South Biscayne Bay, inside of Key Biscayne, around Nixon's Beach. And then on the west side of the bay, off Mercy Hospital and south to Gables by the Sea. If you're using live baits, fish a small pilchard or pinfish under a popping cork, or try using quarter-ounce jig heads with a ghost-colored Bass Assassin or Gulp shrimp. And then the largemouth bass fishing is still red hot in the Everglades and also the lakes and the canals of the region. Their lower waters in the glades have all those fish pushed off the flats, concentrating them in the deeper holes and the canals. Largemouths have been eating live baits like live shiners, crankbaits, and artificial worms early in the mornings and then late in the afternoon. Bulk of these bass are going to be on the small side, but you're going to catch a lot of them. And then in the lakes and canals throughout the region, along with those largemouth, peacock bass have also been hot. The key to catching the peacocks is to find some clear water, and they're going to bite best in the middle of the day. First choice of bait for a peacock is a live minnow or shiner, along with deep-running crankbaits in soft plastics and dark colors. Got another photo here. This is Andy Lauderdale with a nice largemouth caught at Holiday Park.
Man, great pictures this week, Jimbo. Thank you so much. We're going to go take a look at the ACR hotspots from the southeast region. Jimbo says inshore, fish the Everglades and the urban canals in the lake systems for the early morning largemouth bass, and then in the afternoon go peacock bass fishing offshore. Drift or kite fish, live baits in 90 to 300 feet of water for sailfish, mahis, kingfish, and blackfin tunas.
All right, well, it's a good time to be in the Black Oak LED Keys region where there are bridges and smiles for miles, plus full bellies on the horizon with Captain Ridge Murphy.
You know, May 1st is here and everyone's favorite fish is now on the menu. Thick white fakey fillets are swimming all over the Black Oak LED region, and groupers are very common and can be targeted inside the reef and offshore all throughout the Keys. Drifting baits on the bottom or anchoring on spot lock are the most common ways to target these fish, but in the event that you don't have any numbers, some will grouper troll with 16 to 32 ounce trolling leads depending on the depth, with big wahoo lures or lip plugs like the Savage Matchstick Deep Diver 20, getting the baits down near the bottom, and you're watching the bottom machine as you're doing that, covering ground looking for new spots. Once you have found a few areas that are holding some groupers, try anchoring as far away from the numbers, up current from your rock or wreck, trying to tease these fish far away from the wrecks as possible while still being close enough to get the bite. You may have to set up the anchor more than once to get the right, but it's worth it. Use big baits like speedos, big grunts, pinfish, or even small legal yellowtails. Heavy tackle is the way to go. You're going to take your time. 1 or 2 rods at a time, 30 to 50 wides are recommended, loaded with 80 to 100 pound braided line on a bent butt rod, fighting these fish out of the rod holder, and make sure you're using enough lead to hold bottom, ranging anywhere from 8 ounces to 32 ounces with a long fluorocarbon leader from 30 to 80 pounds. Remember, downscaling your tackle will get you more bites, but also run the risk of losing the fish a lifetime, and when you're selecting your leader size, keep that in mind. Do I want to catch a lot, or do I want to catch a giant? An Eagle Claw circle hook is ranging from 5.0 to 9.0, depending on the bait size. Match your hook to your bait size. Since we're talking about groupers, let's stay on the edge of the reef, and we're talking about yellowtails. Look for the yellowtails on the sounder in 60 to 90 feet of water. Anchor up or spot lock up with your Rodan trolling motor off of the and chum bag with a mixture of chum, oats, sand, menhaden oil. Back behind the boat, take your time and let them get up chum since it's nice and thick. And you're going to free line 1 or 2 rods behind the boat with little or no resistance, 10 to 15 pound mono line on a small Eagle Claw J hook. Yellowtail jigs, and you're going to want a light pen rod and reel for the yellowtail Finwick HMG Elite medium rod light fast. Will do the trick. I got a nice photo of Annie Hagen and Finn Hagen with a nice yellowtail.
All right. Let's go inshore, bub.
I can't seem to get away from these species, and I'm starting to feel like a broken record, but the snook fishing in the Upper Keys is on fire. Florida Bay is on fire right now. We're catching all the species from snook in the moats, the edge of the flats, and tarpon on the edge of tarpon while you're doing that. You want to look in there with the laid up potholes. There's some redfish in there too. You want to use a Finwick Elite 7-foot rod, medium fast blank with 10-pound braided line, 30-pound fluorocarbon leader, and Bass Assassins in a variety of different colors like pink, white, Mama's 14 karat, and opening night. And Smoke Wagon's also a good one. I got a few photos from last week, and one is Steve DeMarco with a nice backcountry snook, and there's another one that's a healthy redfish that was caught by Jerry from Wisconsin.
All right, tell us about the bonefish, bub.
Lower Keys fishing's been pretty hot for the bonefish with a random permit shot as you're going and coming off the flats. Work with the current, looking for mudders and tailors, wakers, and rumbling on tops to the flats. Throw a live shrimp or a small pink jig or shrimp pattern flies to these fish with a big lead. The sharks are really bad all up and down the Keys right now, so if you're starting to get into an area where you're losing lots of fish to sharks, you might want to go somewhere else. There's lots of fish all around the Keys to go around.
All right, thanks, Ridge. I'll talk to you in a little while. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the scientific angler hotspots from the Florida Keys. Ridge says inshore, Florida Bay's on fire. Work the moats and the potholes for a variety of fish. Try Bass Assassins with your main targets. Species will be a snook, obviously, offshore yellowtail, 60 to 90 feet of water, anchor or spot lock, and start chumming. Free line small baits, and don't forget to put a bottom rod down for a chance for a nice big grouper.
Oh, yummy. All right, let's dive on into some tournaments going on in the Florida Keys.
We shall.
First, we're fishing for a cause and cash prizes in the 19th annual Mother's Day Dolphin Tournament to support Habitat for Humanity of the Middle Keys, May 9th and 10th in Marathon. Next, women anglers gather during 2 days of fishing in the annual Ladies Let's Go Fishing Screamin' Reels Offshore and Inshore Fun Fishing Tournament, May 16th through the 18th in Isla Mirada. Then teams compete in Key Largo's Skipper's Dolphin Tournament, May 30th through June 1st for over $60,000 in cash prizes, including $25,000 for the team with the highest combined weight of 3 mahi-mahi. And finally, anglers contend for cash prizes and awards, including $10,000 for the first place boat June 6th through the 8th at the 32nd Annual Lower Keys Chamber of Commerce Dolphin Tournament. For more information on Keys tournaments, go to flakeys.com. But next, we are checking in with Dave Farrell at the CCA Workbench, who's giving some jaw-dropping tips for rigs and techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jaw dropping.
Jaw dropping.
Yep, we're going to try to do a little bit of stuff about jigging for big grouper.
For a big grouper, all right. And
Little grouper and big grouper.
I'll take a little or a big one. And then we're dropping into the Phillips and Jordan Southwest region. So keep your lines tight and we'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. ACR. Less search, more rescue. Scientific Anglers. Failure is not an option. Penn. Let the battle begin. Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
Well, Dave, we're here at the CCA Workbench, rigs and techniques. Tonight, we're going to talk about a specific type of technique for groupers.
Right, jigging
Okay.
for groupers. It's a great way to do it. You don't have to mess with a lot of bait usually, although you can jig with some bait as well. And we'll go into that a little later. But usually, you keep your boat clean. You're not having to keep baits alive and all that kind of stuff. We have some really nice jigs here from Savage Gear. We've got the squish jig, which is that little one there, which is it's a fish and it's called a squish jig. It's hard to say because it's got a fish on one side and a squid on the other.
Here's the fish on this side.
Yeah, and what that jig does,
here's the
it's
squid.
it's very well balanced, so it floats it kind of sinks horizontally. It stays in the strike zone where you want to keep it. Once you get down to the depth, you mark the fish on the finder, you mark the spot. And you want to keep that jig in that area, that strike zone where those groupers are. This is a great jig for that because it does that horizontal dance down there. And it's just, that sideways motion and the double assist hooks there are really good for that. And then they got the Slim Jig Minnow, that bigger one there. It's a high quality super glow finish as well on those jigs. They're a bit heavier. They got that flat fall action on the slack line and a vivid, really vivacious swimming action as well. And they got through wire construction, so you can get big fish on that.
Big bites.
Yeah, big bites. And those are great jigs. If you're let's say 200 feet or shallower, those are great jigs for that kind of fishing because they don't weigh a whole lot, and you're not having to worry about your up and down time. Now, if you're fishing in water over 200 feet, say 250 feet or something, that's when you might want to go to a more traditional, bigger jig, 16 ounce or 10 ounce big grouper jig. And you're in that deeper water, you might be getting close to some bigger groupers as well. And it's really good, because you can tip these. You can put a curly tail. Mr. Twister makes a great big curly tail. That's a really good one to put on there. The paddle tails are also work really well. But you can also put a live bait on there on that jig, which is what we do a lot. We'll send that jig down first, and if we don't get a bite on that, we'll send sabiki to the bottom, catch whatever's down on that bottom that we're fishing, and pull little baits up and just put them on that jig and drop it back down.
I love putting a blue runner on this jig and then trimming the blue runner's tail. So he's vibrating like crazy, but he's not really moving everything around.
Right.
Love it.
And that actually, when you get that live bait down there moving, that'll sometimes will start them biting the other jigs as well.
Correct.
Because it just gets everything moving. And when you get a bite on one of these jigs, you want to wind. You don't want to start trying to set the hook because these rods are only 6 feet long or 7 feet long at the top, and the stretch, if you're using any kind of mono in between, you're not even pulling the stretch out when you lift that thing up over your head.
Right.
If you're fishing in deep enough water.
Right.
So you're going to do a lot better to setting that hook just by winding.
Right.
Crank, and try to get him up off the bottom coming your way. Otherwise, if he can get his head back down, he's going to put you back in that rock.
Yes.
And that's not what you want. If he goes back in that rock, however, go to free spool, wait for 3 to 5 minutes. I know it's hard to do. It's hard to wait that long, but sometimes that grouper will swim back out, and then you can get back on him again.
The other thing I like to do, I promise it works. As many Goliath groupers as we catch in the park, whether it's in a river or whether it's on a wreck somewhere, when they get you in there and you stay tight, this is what I do first. I sit there and banjo string them.
Yeah.
And then if they don't come out, after 45 seconds, 60 seconds of this, then I do exactly what you say. Go to total free spool, let the tension go away, let the pressure come off of his lips, and then he'll usually swim out of there.
Here's another little tip. When you're tying these butterfly jigs on, is what I call them all now. When you're tying these butterfly jigs on, you'll notice that there's a split ring and then there's the solid ring with the hooks on it. You always tie on to the solid ring. You don't tie onto this big split ring because that split ring, if it fails, then you're no longer connected to the fish. But if you're tied around that little solid ring, you'll always be attached to that fish no matter what happens.
All right, man. That's 5 minutes.
Boy, that went quick.
That was some good stuff. So banjo first, free spool second.
Yep.
There you have it. All right, we're switching things up in the Phillips and Jordan Southwest region. So let's see what Captain Ronnie Houston is having us do for our weekend fight. Go for it, Ronnie.
Well, believe it or not, guys, things are really starting to heat up right now in the Phillips and Jordan Southwest region. And when it comes to groupers, a little deviation from what we normally talk about in regard to productive methods of finding the grouper is really finding bait piles or potholes, which is really known as Swiss cheese bottom. Now, to find the bait piles, look for spots of high relief, meaning look for a pile of fish on the bottom that marks up 15 feet or so above the bottom. But also, what a lot of guys are starting to do now is that slow pitch jigging. And it's strongly recommended 150 gram jigs off the bottom. And the best method is to bounce the jig off the bottom and let the slow pitch rod do the work. The key is controlling the fall when you pitch. And another simple method while doing this is just simply putting the jig on the bottom and setting the rod in the rod holder and letting the fish hook himself. But really the most common way we catch grouper all throughout the region is using a variety of live baits or a variety of cut baits on the bottom all through the region. And I got a prime example of the slow pitch method with Captain Davis Olson catching a nice red grouper in the southwest region. Next species is going to be the permits. You know, the easterly winds are slowly settling down. The weather's starting to get warm, even though we had cool temps this morning. Captain Wes in Perry Bedell reports if you have moderate weather, right now most noted wrecks, towers, and artificial reefs are holding permit, and some really in big numbers. Now, what you really want to do is you want to start by looking for the fish along the top, hopefully to get some sight casting. But if not, you want to drift in and around the structure if you don't see these fish, or simply just put your trolling motor or an anchor mode, whatever variety trolling motor you have. But the fish can still be finicky, so having a variety of baits like shrimp, crabs, and bucktails is what you're going to need. Some days the fish are finicky, but other than that, crabs have been the best bait, either free line or just enough weight to get to the fish wherever they're at the water column if you don't find them on top. And here's another recent permit caught in the last week while fishing with Captain Wes and Perry Bedell.
Nice. All right, let's go inshore.
The inshore report, you know, the tarpon bite seems to be getting better and better, and more fish are showing up along the beaches and passes from Marco to Boca Grande, specifically with the easterly winds. You know, once that sea breeze picks up, you might have to resort to the passes or just inside the middle bays, particularly to the north from Fort Myers Beach to Boca Grande. Now, fish are eating a variety of baits like live crabs, pinfish, herring, but also a variety of artificial swim baits, anywhere from 5-inch, like the Bass Assassin Dye Dappers or the Berkeley Coal Shad, something similar to that profile. And I got a picture here with Captain Chris McCubbin down in Naples with a recent tarpon release.
Nice.
Last species is going to be the redfish. You know, right now, Coon Key to Lossman's River concentrate on the outer Gulf Islands in areas of oysters, blowdowns, or schools of fry bait, or getting in areas of mullet. That's really going to help. Now, your higher tides, your knocker rigging shrimp on the bottom, if you can get pilchards, you can chum or use a simple method of knocker rigging the pilchards on the bottom. The higher to mid times seem to be best, but on the artificial side, what I've been doing is, you know, I run that Skeeter SX230. It's got like a 10-inch draft. I carry 60 gallons of fuel. I run the whole coast. I try to concentrate on the last of the outgoing and beginning of the incoming on those edges. I can get into that 10 inches of water, and these are a variety of baits that I'm using to throw into 6 inches of water with light 20-pound braid. You can use a variety of half-ounce gold spoons in the cleaner water. You can use the new Berkeley 4-inch turbo shrimp in Flamingo Chrome has been the best color. Or in the more cleaner water, the Bass Assassin Little P&B in gold, glow. You can use that on a variety of 1/8 and 1/4-ounce jig heads. But right now, I'm telling you, I'm finding a lot of redfish in the last 8 weeks. But a lot of these fish right now are only 19 to 25 inches with some oversized fix in the midge. And hopefully in the next couple months, we'll get some bigger fish. But here's a recent picture with Captain Chris Broom fishing out of Marco Island. He's catching some sized redfish down there, but also he's catching a variety of smaller fish.
All right, bud. Great report. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Phillips and Jordan Southwest region. Inshore, Ronnie says trout, Pine Island Sound, Bull and Turtle Bay, targeting potholes, troughs, and the edges at the lower tide using topwater plugs and noise-making corks with soft plastics. And then offshore, cobias and permit. Most noted wrecks and artificial reefs using live crabs and a variety of live baits, Bree.
Well, Rick, catching illegal gag, black, red, or scamp grouper this summer could be more rewarding than you think.
Tell me.
You could win a 250 Yamaha motor in the CCA Florida Star competition presented by Yamaha. Anglers can enter via the Star app almost any offshore species in the Angle Coolers offshore division presented by AFCO for a shot at winning their share of $500,000 in prizes. Star begins Memorial Day weekend and ends Labor Day for 100 plus days of fishing. You must be registered for the competition and a CCA member before you hook your catch to be eligible to win. Register before April 30th at ccaflstar.com. Up next, we are talking to our friends from Phillips and Jordan and CCA Florida, plus the StarTron Central West region has your weekend report. And then we're seeing what the Central East region offerings are looking like with Captain Jim Ross. Stay hooked.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, Your Fish, Our Science, Bahio, Blue Light Blocking, Radically Clear Polarized Fishing Sunglasses, Guy Harvey, Every purchase helps support the health of our oceans and marine life. Penn, let the battle begin. Kubota, together we do more. And Heroes on the Water, paddle, fish, heal.
Well, joining me now is Matt Edison from Phillips & Jordan and Brian Gorski from CCA. You know, Brian, you have certainly, we've had some water quality issues over the years here in Florida, and you have brought Phillips & Jordan to the game. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your relationship and how it all got started?
Thank you, Rick. Yes, about 6 years ago, Matt and Phillips & Jordan approached CCA Florida about all the work that we do throughout the state, from habitat to fisheries management to restocking efforts and so forth. And like we do with all of our state sponsors, we fully vetted Phillips & Jordan. And, you know, based on especially Matt's track record in the Keys with the sewer to septic conversion that he led and completed the entire project, which had immediate impacts on our fisheries, especially in the Keys with bonefish. And then, of course, their work with Everglades Restoration. It was a no-brainer for CCA Florida to partner with such a great company like Phillips & Jordan.
So 6 years ago, you started with Phillips & Jordan. And tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, going back to the start with Brian and his team, you know, we've always focused at Phillips & Jordan on those that do the work and the hands-on and the boots on the ground and actually make a difference, a tangible difference in what they do, and that was CCA. So that led to the partnership. And, you know, over the years, you know, 6 years ago, one of our first projects in the region in the Pasco County area was the 4G project. It's actually a wetland recharge project on the Phillips family ranch. That project can take, you know, 3 million gallons a day of reclaimed water and recharge that aquifer. And we've noticed over the years that there's a lot of ancillary benefit to that recharge. Wetlands that haven't been there in 100 years, as you see here, are starting to return.
Beautiful.
So these are big projects that are impactful.
All right, so what does our current project look like?
Yeah, we've got some big ones we're wrapping up this year. We just wrapped up, and you know they're starting up the A2 STA, the stormwater treatment area. That's a 6,500 STA, which is a critical part of Everglades restoration. You know, the right balance in that region of storage and treatment is what you're trying to achieve. So some treatment things we're wrapping up on the C43 Boma project over there just north of the south end of the Caloosahatchee. So we've got some big stuff that we're wrapping up in 2025.
So why is this so important?
Yeah, these projects for us in the Everglades and the whole Everglades region are, you know, it's a program approach to everything you do. You know, if we can take this water, get it moved south, you know, stop these discharges both east and west through the Caloosahatchee and St. Lucie, you know, get that balance and then take that water south to Florida Bay as clean water and you know, rehydrate those Everglades regions and get that water balance back in the Florida Bay is hugely important to the whole program.
Yeah, because certainly Florida Bay cannot survive without the fresh water.
Right.
So it's a kind of a catch-22. If we push it east and west, it doesn't go south and it's not good for them. So the water they don't want, we need down here in South Florida in the Everglades.
Yes, we do.
Bub, we're so grateful for all the things you guys have done.
You.
Brian, we're certainly grateful bringing Phillips & Jordan to the game and doing all your homework the way you do and all the habitat restoration. It's all part of our message. And you know what? We're really grateful. But you know what, Bree? We got to find out what the next region has to offer.
Yes, let's do it. All right, you'll find groupers galore in the StarTron Central West region, but let's hear from Captain Jeff Page on the most commonly pursued. Enlighten us, Page.
Yes, I will. First and foremost, I say Brian Gorski for Congress, but let's vote Brian Gorski into Congress. The grouper in the StarTron Central West region is the #1 offshore species, always has been, probably close second American red snapper. But the grouper, our top two grouper are the red grouper and the gag grouper. But then we have also, you know, a mixture of true blacks, but sometimes known as carburetas, and then the big Warsaw groupers, and then of course the Goliath grouper. And then way offshore in the deep water, Strawberry, Kitty Mitchell, and all those other deep groupers. But as far as staying within reach of most of our boaters, 30 to 50 miles, maybe 70 miles, top two are gag and red. And the cool thing about both of them, Rick, depending on the time of the year, they can be caught in as close as a mile off the beach. And sometimes even in our bays and estuaries, especially in the deeper ship channels, coming in Egmont Key and also down in Charlotte Harbor, coming in Boca Grande Pass. Now, #1 way that we fish for grouper year-round, standard bottom rigs with lead sinkers. You can use live or dead bait, drop down on structure. Tags like to hold on ledges and bigger areas of hard bottom, even wrecks and artificial reefs. Whereas that red grouper, he can be on small Swiss cheese bottom areas, even holding on sand with a little bit of limestone. So it's not uncommon. You can drift for that red grouper, whereas that gag grouper you want to anchor up or spot lock with your trolling motor. Now, as far as trolling for them, lip plugs that dive anywhere from 12 to 30 feet seem to be the best tactic. Chartreuse, pink, and of course silver and greenback. And a lot of guys like to use big, heavy 1, 2, even 3-ounce bucktails with a curly tail fish bites trailer on them. And then in the fall, we have a really good inshore fishery around all that Skyway rubble from the Skyway south down Rattlesnake Key and then also up into South Tampa Bay. Another way you can catch them is stay off that structure and crank lip plugs over them. My grouper photo tonight, Rick, you're not going to recognize him, but that's little Mikey Vanetti that did the Sportsman's Adventure with you about 10, 15 years ago with a nice big red grouper he caught with Captain Chris Seeger and Stacy Capps on board the Family Matters.
Awesome.
All right, tell us about the kingfish, bub. You got about
Kingfish,
2 minutes.
Late season push of kingfish, but they're showing up really strong. Guys are having some good action in as close as 25 feet of water. They're holding around the artificial reef. And don't be surprised if you see a big muddy area out on the beach. Clean green water all around it. It's a good idea you can flip live bait on the edges of the muds, or you control lip plugs or spoons through it. There are a lot of sharks mixed in with some jacks and Spanish mackerel as well. And the kingfish photo tonight is a happy client with Captain Brian Marcy. Moving inshore, it's that time of year, Rick. Tarpon, May 1st, and the tarpon fishing has been really good down to the south part of the region. But look for it to improve up my way as we approach this next full moon. Egmont Key, Skyway Bridge has been good. And Captain Jeff Hageman told me that the early morning crab bite in the Boca Grande Pass area and the late afternoon, and he's been using a mixture of 60-pound fluorocarbon with a 7.0 Trocor hook and having a good result catching. And my photo tonight is of the hag himself with a Boca Grande Silver King. And my last species tonight, snook. Big high tides this whole week on this new moon. Snook have been moving up in the bays, around the oyster bars, mangrove shorelines, about anywhere that you normally catch snook. They're going to be there on these big high tides. This week, they're in the noon to 4 o'clock range, depending on where you are. They're also in the inlets from Anna Maria down to Gasparilla Pass. Live pilchards, pinfish, and grunts have been working really well. If you like throwing artificials, the chrome or bone large jaywalker's been working good. I suggest using 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. And my last photo tonight, that's our little fisher girl, 16-year-old Ada Pauley, all grown up, and she's working at the Daiquiri Deck now, one of our sponsors, and that's her with a nice snook.
All right, Captain Page, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Daiquiri Deck hotspots from the Central West region. Captain Page says snook fish the higher stages of the tide in the oyster bars, on the oyster bars in Mangrove Islands in Bull and Turtle Bay. Use live freeline pilchers, threadfin, floating grass. If it's a problem, put those baits under a popping cork, and then offshore, kingfish troll lip plugs and spoons in and around those big muds that are popping up in the Gulf from Venice north to Anna Maria. Live slow trolled blue runners or big thread fins work really well. So you know, Bree, Captain Page has had a little bit of health issues, and you know what? He's going to a place up in Clearwater. Unfortunately, they don't take insurance. So Jeffrey's been having to pay out of pocket for some of his treatments that he's got going on. So this weekend we're going to try to do a fundraiser here at this Ribs for Page benefit from Sarasota Fishing. All the benefits. A way to support the Sarasota Fishing Guide is to go to this deal. It's going to be held at on May 3rd, 10 to 2 p.m. at
Detweiler's Farm Market.
Yeah, read that for me. I can't see that far.
Detweiler's Farm Market menu: ribs, brisket, chicken, bacon on a stick, smoked mac and cheese, Oh man.
Right there off of Clark's
Right
Road.
there, right off of Clark's Road.
So guys,
Wonderful.
go buy some good food and understand you're supporting the captain.
Amazing.
All
Love
right.
it. All
There we
right.
go.
Well, if you're fishing the Central East region with Captain Jim Ross, you're sure to catch a memory with the variety we got going on offshore and inshore. Right, Jim?
You were right about that, Bree. It was good seeing you this past week at the Project Sea Safe event down at Grant with the Starbright gang and the One Water crew. I tell you what, that was a big event and great stuff was happening for the Indian River Lagoon. But let's talk about the grouper in the Central East region because we got them opening up on the 1st of May. And I'm telling you what, the fishing is going to be really good because we've had some really good preseason fish that have been caught. Now, Captain Ron Rincones, who for years was unquestionably one of the best grouper anglers on the Space Coast, he once told me that grouper would eat itself if it could get its tail in its mouth. And it's the truth. This aggressive disposition is exactly what Captain Ron would use against those fish. And that's how he would land these massive black-bellied grouper out of Canaveral and out of Sebastian. Now, Captain Ron likes big baits, and he says that usually, he's trying to use a blue runner, a small Jack Crevalle, or a good-sized grunt. They seem to make really good baits. And that'll usually discourage the smaller grouper and even some of those more aggressive red snapper. And they'll just kind of leave it alone and let the grouper find that bait and get it. Because they're not always the first ones to attack a bait when you drop it down on a piece of structure. Ron likes heavy tackle, and he says you want to get your Penn Senator or a Squall or a Fathom, and it's got to be capable of at least 30 pounds of drag pressure or more. And he likes main lines in the 80-pound class, and you can see that as a common sight on most of the boats when they're heading out to do some good bottom fishing out of our Central East region. Now, the average gag in my region runs about 16 to 24 pounds, and larger fish in the 30-pound range are possible throughout all of my region. Now, I've got a picture here of Captain Sonny Richards of AA Charters, and this is a client that he had out the other day with a nice gag, caught 90 feet of water that they put back in because it wasn't season yet, so that fish is still there for you guys and gals to go catch. Now, my other species offshore is the dolphin, and the western edge of the Gulf Stream is holding dolphin on a pretty regular basis right now. We've got a lot of weeds and even some rips that are gathering on that edge, and it's holding the bait fish that the dolphin are preying on. You want to troll some small to medium-sized naked or skirted ballyhoo, and if you find some group, like a big group of sargasso or some kind of a floating fixture, stop because the fish will hold on that, and you can take your spin fisher or your slammer 5500 or 6500 size reel and cast out some baits, either cut bait or small live baits underneath those floating debris. And I've got a picture here of exactly that David Glasser sent me from Fishing Devotion Charters of a dolphin that they landed while pitching to them underneath those floating debris. Now, swinging inshore, Captain Mike Mann up in Mosquito Lagoon has been finding black drum schools throughout, the whole lagoon on his recent trips. He says that you want to look in the 2 to 4 foot depths because they're not up in as shallow water. They're off the edge a little bit. The tiger baits and the false channel areas are working pretty good. And he's using sand fleas or fresh dead or live shrimp. And if you can find some small crab or even some cut crab, that's a top bait choice for those fish as well. As they graze along the bottom, they don't really attack things. They just kind of graze and pick things up. Most of the drum are running 8 to 15 pounds, and he sent me a nice picture of one from the New Smyrna area that Captain Mike, Fat Fish Guide Service, put his clients on the other day.
That's great.
And then my last species is snook, Rick, and the snook bite is really good again this week. We've had some negative low tides, and it's really, here's the key though, go later in the day. The morning bite's been the mid-morning bite's been horrible. Later in the day is when the action is happening. Get your live mullet or your live croakers or some mahara and get out there. Most of our snook right now are running in that 30 to even 40-inch range. And I actually talked to Captain Alex Huey the other day. He had one that was a little over 40. So they're out there. And here's a picture of one that was sent in here recently from the Canaveral area that we've been catching a lot of those fish lately.
What a beautiful fish. Good job this week, Jim. Thank you so much. We're going to go and take a look at the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots from the Central East region. Jimmy says snook from Round Island to Mullet Creek, freeline live croakers near the docks or mangrove structures for fish up to 40 inches. Then you guys that want to do the offshore, groupers in 90 feet of water on the reef outside of Sebastian Inlet. Use live grunts, pigfish, or croakers to fish in 20 pounds.
20 pounds of what was that? croakers? did
20
you say?
pounds.
20 pounds.
Using a big croaker.
Oh, all right. Well, Rick, we've mentioned this before, but here's a real solution, and it's coming up. CCA Florida's Adopt a Redfish program is back and returns to the East Coast. For $250, you can adopt one of only 100 tagged redfish, size 15 to 19 inches, that will be released this month in Biscayne Bay. By participating in the program, you can name your fish, receive an Adopt a Redfish performance shirt, adoption certificate, and even release your redfish at Matheson Hammock Park next week, May 6th.
That's
Go
it.
to ccaflorida.org/adopt-a-redfish to get your fish today.
Let's do it.
May is here.
It's here.
Oh my goodness. All right, get ready because coming up next, we're shopping for some Taco Marine new products at the CCA Workbench with Dave Farrell. Dave,
We got a lot of nice stuff.
Pretty
Look
stuff.
at this thing. The
Ooh,
bait lung.
The bait lung.
lung.
Gotta keep them frisky. All right, then we're doing a little grocery shopping in the Northeast region with Captain Tommy Derringer. So keep it real, and we'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Abyss Battery, power your pursuit. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. And Black Oak LED, never be left in the dark.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench. Time for Taco Marine's new product, and we're going to just troll down the edge. So let's go to this edge over here, buddy.
That's the edge we're starting on. The Bahio Zapata. It's new for 2025. It's an extra large fit, full frame glasses, and it joins the Tight Lines collection of the fish-focused frames that Bahio has. It's got that straight, wide profile. It's got built-in side shields and sun ledges for max protection against the sun and the wind. Flex hinges allow it to open up and fit real comfortable. It's got rubber temples and rubber nose pads so that when you start sweating out there on the flats or whatever, it'll keep it real close to your face and tight to your face. Has 3 different frame colors: the brown, the grass, and the black matte, and 7 different lens colors as well. And it comes with a really good blue block and light there. It blocks 100% of UV light, 90% of bad blue, and 95% of bad blue, and 90% of harsh yellow light. So great
And you know
lenses.
what else?
Rick Murphy owns part of it.
Yeah, so we're an investor, just like my good buddy Scott Martin. So if you guys really want to and support what we do here every day,
yes,
in this show or Sportsman's Adventures, invest in a pair of Bahios. And if you don't like them, give me a shout.
They have really good,
and we'll figure out
really
how to
good
make it happen.
customer service. BahioSunglasses.com.
The best in the business, the
Correct.
warranty. Promise.
Next, we have the Mangrove Fishing Products Trolling Motor Stabilizer. This is has universal fitment for Rodan, Power Pole, Motor Guide, most Minn Kotas. There's no drilling required to put it on your boat. That thing just clicks over your shaft of the trolling motor, and then you can adjust it with a little button down here. It has like 6 different adjustment heights, so it's just an incredible. It's been very well thought out. Because I just had to drill holes in the hull of my boat to get a stabilizer on there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and not only that, this thing will fold down so that it'll fold all the way down, so you don't have to take this off and on.
How'd you do that, Dave?
There's a button right there, that big thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so that allows that to just fold all the way down against the shaft of the trolling motor, so you don't even have to take it on and off every time that you lift the trolling motor up and out of the water.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's got a 30-pound internal shock absorber, a stainless steel spring in there. I mean, it's just a really nice. And that black, we got one that over on the Rodan over there, and we also have that one, which the black one, and that one glows in the dark. So.
All right.
MangroveProducts.com to get you one of those really nice stabilizers.
All right.
Next, we have the Eagle Claw L2004 Circle C circle hook. This is a really good circle hook. It does a lot of heavy lifting all over the world. It's a true circle hook, a true inline circle hook. The point is pointing directly at the shaft. So it's a true circle hook. Once you get a fish on there, it's hard to get the fish off there. That's why we use them, because it's great for any fish that jumps around, any billfish. You know, they don't throw that hook nearly as well as they will to J hook.
Right.
Stout, incredibly sharp forge point, 9 sizes from a little 6/0 all the way up to a 13/0. And they come in different value packs as well, medium standard and big value packs. American-made hooks in Denver, Colorado, and a great hookup ratio.
Sounds like a good hook to go
Eagle
grouper
Claw,
fishing with.
EagleClaw.com, exactly. If you
All
use
right.
bottom fishing and not using a circle hook, you're missing
Quickly
out.
on the bait lung.
This is the Bait Lung Saltwater Premium Bait Care Tanks. You know, it provides optimum oxygen levels in your bait well. It allows you to put more bait in a tank. You know, you can overcrowd a tank. Before you wouldn't want to do that, but when you're just pumping 90 to 93% pure oxygen at 6.6 liters a minute, you're going to keep your bait alive. System cartridges that last up to 6 months and these can be used in freshwater, saltwater, brackish water, just about any water, and it'll oxygenate a 100-gallon tank. This unit. So and it comes with all the stuff that you need to mount it in your boat and to connect it to your bait well.
Where do we go to find out more information?
Baitlung.com.
Baitlung.com.
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
I don't know why I don't have that written down.
That would be a good guess, Dave.
It might be Fishlung. I think it's fishlung.com.
Try
I'll
it.
tell you
Bait
when I come
lung,
back
fish
later. At the
lung.
end.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. All
Here
right.
we go.
Well, it's Yamaha's Ride the Wave sales
Fish
event
lung, bait lung.
from now until May 21st, 2025. If you purchase a new eligible Yamaha 450 to 30 HP outboard, get up to 7 years of warranty protection. And if you purchase a new Yamaha 25 to 2.5 HP outboard, you'll receive up to $500 in dealer credit. Make sure you visit your local Yamaha dealer today for more details. But if you're in the search for the big Mamma Jamma grouper, Captain Tommy Derringer is the person for the job in the Northeast region. What's going on, Tommy?
Hey, Bree. We've got some killer grouper fishing here in the Northeast region. You know, grouper is a favorite offshore species, and you can pretty much catch them year-round. I know a lot of anglers are excited about the opening of the season this week, and even with it being a really short season. But here in my region now, you typically find the bigger grouper on the offshore ledges, reefs, and wrecks. Right about this time of year, the grouper have finished up spawning up to the north of us, and they should be stacking up offshore in our region over the next several weeks. The groupers are going to hold on just about any kind of structure, but a lot of times the smaller ledges and live bottom are going to hold some of the biggest grouper. Now, that's something that the grouper dudes have told me pretty much every year since I started doing the show. You know, if you have a much better chance of catching one of those big, huge groupers, you find the smaller live bottom or, you know, any kind of structure that's not everybody and their brother and the divers are going to fish. If you can get on that before they do, you have a much better chance of getting that big fish. Now, you're probably not going to mark a lot of those fish on your bottom machine if you do find a small ledge or a piece of live bottom out there, but it's definitely going to be worth making a drop down to see if one of those big groupers is home. Now, the best baits are going to be live pinfish, grunts, sardines, or even a big Boston mackerel. I did speak to Captain Chris Schultz. He tells me that he's using a 80 to 100 pound test mainline to a fish finder rig with about 10 feet of 150 pound leader. He's using a nice stout Eagle Claw circle hook. That's going to be the typical setup for him. But you're going to want to up your tackle size a little bit if you're going to be fishing around some heavier structure. Or you can downsize a little bit if you're over some smaller live bottom with not as many snags. Now, Captain Chris said his favorite depths right now are typically going to be in the 150 to 200 foot range. He's using some heavy weights to get those baits down there, sometimes up to even a pound or two of weight. And I got a picture here. This is Captain Chris Schultz with the snapper there. It's Justin Quintal with the gag grouper and Andrew Broughton with that monster of a black grouper.
Wow.
Nice.
Captain Chris said they caught that they thought Andrew had a shark on, getting everybody tangled up. They were all yelling at him, and then the fish came up, and it was that giant black grouper. So
Nice.
pretty cool.
A nice one.
Exciting.
All right, what else you got offshore for us?
The mahis are showing up, man, in better numbers as things continue to heat up. I spoke to Captain Billy Hunsicker from Endless Summer Charters. He told me he's been finding the mahi and those 160 all now to about 500 feet. He's mostly looking for weed lines, and there's been a lot of weeds out there, but he also has been finding quite a bit of floating debris. He's been finding pallets and other pieces of wood. Those things are definitely going to be holding fish this time of year, so if you see something, give it a look. He's mostly been fishing naked ballyhoos and chuggers, and said that there's still a lot of smaller fish around, but there are some bigger ones in the mix as well, and they should be the bigger ones should start showing up better over the next few weeks. And I've got another picture here. Captain Billy sent me this picture of a nice string of mahis that they caught east of St. Augustine on the Endless Summer. Now, moving inshore, guys, the redfish bite has been outstanding this year. I mean, it's been really great. And this week has been awesome as well. You know, we have a low tide at first light this weekend. That's a great time to chase some skinny water redfish. I've been finding some big upper to even over slot fish in the back of some of the bigger creeks north of Volano on up towards Palm Valley this week. You will need a skinny water boat or even a kayak or something to get back to those fish, but don't feel left out if you don't, because the redfish have been all over the edges of the ICW as well. You know, when that tide is backed out, go down the ICW, look for those small runouts off those bigger flats, fish those edges. Those are going to be holding those redfish. Now, also inshore, guys, the flounders, you know, they've been flounder season basically here in Northeast region, unofficially. And I had a bunch of reports of nice flounder catches, both in numbers of fish and in size. They're getting a little bit bigger. Mud minnows and small finger mullet rigged on a fish finder rig, or a quarter-ounce saltwater assassin jig head. Those are the go-to setups. You know, the flounder have also been staging up along those ICW runouts at low tide. Look for those runouts that are holding good numbers of baits. You know, you're going to find the flounder and the redfish there. And I got one last photo here and a little story to go along with it. This is a picture that my man Tyler sent me of a nice flounder his buddy Max caught last weekend on a saltwater assassin paddle tail. You know what? Him and his buddy, or both of those guys, attended a seminar that I was giving at the Jacksonville Boat Show. And right after the seminar, they hit the water. I got a text a little bit later with this picture saying they used the lure and the tactics that I just talked about to catch this fish on their first cast. So I felt like I accomplished something, you know?
You know what you're talking about, Tommy.
Way to go, Professor.
Holy
Teacher,
you know,
Professor.
every once in a while.
You do.
Professor Tommy D.
Proof is in the pudding.
I love it. Keep up the good work, Tommy. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at the strike zone hotspots from the Northeast region. Tommy says inshore, redfish, trout, flounder along the ICW edges first thing in the morning on low tide. Try bass assassin paddle tail in dark colors on a quarter-ounce jig head. And then offshore, great yellowfin tuna bite on the other side of the Gulf Stream. Guys, just go over there and catch those big tunas and bring them home.
Just do it.
So we can have some sushi in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's your thing.
All right, that's my thing. All right, anglers, get ready for the old school Kingfish Shootout on June 14th in St. Augustine. This family-friendly tournament has a unique format with limited boundaries, no bait penning or buying, and no checkout. The grand prize is a 21-foot yellowfin bay boat with a 200 HP Yamaha and a Meritrail trailer valued at $125,000, and the early entry fee is only $250 through May 31st. For more details, visit oldschoolkingfish.com. But look alive, Panhandle and East Regioners. We're bringing you your captains with all the fishing mojo know-how coming right up. And remember, if you're hooked on fishing in Florida, then don't miss a thing. Swing by our website, smash that like button on Facebook, re-listen on X and Instagram, and cast on over to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy, for fresh fishing adventures, reports, and more. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, conserving Florida's fisheries since 1985. Frontrunner Boatworks, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. The Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
In the Panhandle region, there are many different types of grouper and ways to catch them. So let's find out the most productive ones with Captain
Pat Denny.
There you go, just checking. Hi, Pat. How you doing?
Yeah, Bree, I think that's very true. I mean, we do have a bunch of different kinds of groupers. The gag grouper, the red grouper, the scamp are probably the most sought after in the Panhandle. And currently, there's a bunch of red groupers being caught this year. I don't know what's going on, but everybody's reporting a plethora of red grouper. But whatever grouper you're after, they're all structure-oriented, natural bottom south and east of Panama City. It's known for its gag grouper and its red groupers, while the western bottom areas in 200 to 300 feet of water, basically off of Dauphin Island, Alabama, and even further west, has a lot of scamp groupers. And then the Deepwater Gas Pipeline in 600 feet of water or so has good fishing for snowy groupers and other deep water species. So if groupers are on your, your radar, the Panhandle's not a bad place to be. A live pinfish is a good bait, but strip baits and butterfly baits catch their share. And half an octopus is an awesome grouper bait. I know guys that swear by them. And the cool thing is more guys are starting to jig fish for them. And there's a photo of a scamp grouper, arguably the best eating grouper in the Gulf, caught slow pitch jig fishing out of Destin this week with Captain Jason Yates of On Time Charters out of Shalimar. So if you want groupers, we do have a variety, that's for sure. The king mackerel staying offshore, they've shown up in really good numbers outside all the inlets. What you want to do is sabiki up a live well of bait just outside or inside of the inlet. Preferably you want cigar minnows and herrings, and then slow troll them on a wire stinger rig around the bait schools, along the buoy lines and over bottom structure in 60 to 90 feet of water. But you can also troll lip diving plugs and spoons. They work well if you run out of bait. Kings are running 10 to 15 pounds with a few valid smokers thrown in. And moving inshore, there's some really big trout being caught in the Panhandle right now. The big girls are definitely up on the grass flats. Sometimes you can find them in the skinniest of water, but they can be really spooky when they get in that real shallow water. So a long cast and a bit of stealth is needed. A top water walk the dog style bait, great for targeting those big trout. But big live bait like a croaker or finger mullet, free line on the flats edges or the bayou mouth, they're going to catch their share of the big gator trout. The flats in Santa Rosa Sound, the back bays of Panama City, and throughout St. Joe Bay, all good right now for speckled trout. There's a couple of gator trout pics for you. First photo is a nice fat springtime trout caught fishing with Captain Ryan Posey in Chattahoochee Bay on the fly. That's a great fish on bait, but a really nice catch on the fly rod. And then the other photo is a big springtime trout caught lure fishing in Santa Rosa Sound with Steven Zlata out of Fort Walton Beach. So the big trout are on the roam. And then finally inshore, pompano are still being caught in good numbers throughout the Panhandle. The water remains clean with no June weed. The pompano are mostly being caught along the beaches, but quite a few are being caught up in the bays. Cinco Bayou Bridge had a nice run of them recently. On the beach, you want to look for a spot where the rip current would be or where the outer bar forms a pinch point with the shore. Use a sand rake to catch your sand fleas and fish them on a 2-hook chicken rig, or sweeten up your pompano jig with it. The pompano running up to and over 3 pounds.
All right, Pat, you did a great job. Thank you so much. We're going to go and take a look at the Heroes on the Water hotspots from the Panhandle region. Pat says that, guys, you want to make sure that you guys go big inshore. Big bull redfish at the Destin Bridge on the incoming tide using the Gulf caught bait like a herring or a cigar minnow. And then offshore, red groupers using live pinfish or strip baits on a slip sinker rig. Fish natural bottom 80 to 200 feet of water and keep your bait on the bottom.
That's important. That's a good tip.
That's where them groupers live, in the bottom.
In the bottom. All right, well, speaking of Heroes on the Water, make this Memorial May a time to remember the heroes who gave everything for our freedom. Heroes on the Water stands with Carry the Load to honor the sacrifices of our military, veterans, first responders, and their families. Walk and fundraise with us. Visit the website to see the Florida Relay and rally dates and join or create a team with Heroes on the Water.
You know, Bree, there's so many different organizations out there that, support heroes in some part. But I think one of the reasons why we partnered with Heroes on the Water is because they take care of the first responders, they take care of active and non-active duty veterans, but then they also take care of the families. If there's a tragedy, then they do everything they can to support the families in their later existence.
That's so important.
To us,
full circle.
When you bring that in and you're taking care of police and fire, it's really important that we're touching all the people that really make a difference in our life.
Correct. It's an absolutely no-brainer. All right, well, if it's going to be May, you're going to want to get to deeper waters for that mouth-watering grouper fillet in the Alto Equipment East region. So tell us how it's done, Holiday.
Yeah, Bree, the grouper come in the wintertime. They come into the shallow waters and spawn, and as we get into spring and start moving into summer, they like to push out to that deeper water. Grouper season opens today in my region. You'll find a lot of black and gag grouper in the deeper reefs in like 120 to 180 feet of water, in places like the 8 Mile Reef, the Flat Top, and the open area of reef off Fort Pierce in like 160 to 170 feet of water. That's just west of the closed area of the Oculina Bank. Make sure you know exactly where you are so you're not breaking the law. There's also a lot of snowy grouper out on Push Button Hill, and you can find Goliath grouper on just about any nearshore reef or rock pile in 30 to 50 feet of water. We also get a fair number of grouper inside this time of year in Indian River, particularly up in Fort Pierce, around the rocky channel edges and around the bridge pilots. You want to target the grouper with 50 to 100 pound tackle to keep them from getting into the rocks or into the structure. 60 to 80 pound leader, a 9-0 circle hook, and a lot of guys use a 3-way swivel, put the weight down on the bottom with a lighter leader. So if they get the right weight in the rocks, they can break it off without losing the entire rig. For baits, everything from a live pinfish, grunt, croaker, or threadfin works really well. Jigging spoons and a big heavy jig, a 6 to 10 ounce jig with a rubber glowworm on it. It's really popular in my area, particularly a white jig. Average group on a region is going to be 8 to 20 pounds. And it's funny, we got this one last week, so I just wanted to throw it up there. We caught this small grouper in the Indian River around the 10-cent bridge on a live threadfin. So, some nice fish on the inside even. The big thing going on right now, the kingfish were a couple of weeks late arriving this year, but man, they showed up in both numbers and size this week. The fish are spread out all over the region. Great catches coming from the Vero Cove, the 10-minute reef south of Fort Pierce, the 8 Mile Reef off Stewart, the Loran Ledge off Hook Sound, and the Zoo off Jupiter. Live sardines and goggle eyes are the top baits, but anything from a blue runner to a threadfin to a mullet will work right now. You can slow troll or drift with, a number 4 wire stinger rig or the triple hook monofilament Palm Beach rig. Average king right now is like 10 to 20 pounds, but there were 2 kings over 60 pounds and a stack of 40 and 50 pounders caught in a tournament out of Fort Pierce this past weekend. So there's big fish around. I got some photos of some big fish. Charles Resta, John Fritz, and Jordan Walters teamed up to get this 42-pound king just south of Fort Pierce on the offshore bar. They got that on a live bait down on a planer. And then Captain Chris Britton sent me this shot of a big kingfish they got in 125 feet of water that ate a live threadfin off a kite.
All right, man, let's go inshore, bub.
Well, the white butterflies are drifting across the Indian River Drive. That means the snook bite is on in the East region. There's a good snook action going on in the Loxahatchee River, around the seawalls and the bends in the river. Also around the north and south forks of the St. Lucie River in the same areas on the seawalls. The fish are really focused on mullets, so topwater plugs, swimming plugs, big jigs like a saltwater assassin, Artemis shad, and the mullet colors are working well. Big topwater plugs you want those larger topwater plugs, not the small ones. There's also been a good push of snook in the Indian River around the western shorelines near Savannah Road and up around St. Lucie Village. In the inlets, live pilchards and threadfins are going to be the top baits. Average snook is 5 to 15 pounds. And Captain J.J. Klarman, he sent me the shot of a nice snook one of his clients got. They got that from the blurred background dock, and that ate a live pilchard.
All right.
The other thing, from April through June, that's the time when the sea trout are actively spawning in the Indian River, and that's when we catch the largest fish of the year. That's going on right now. Good catches coming from the flats of Big Mud Creek, up in Middle Cove, the North Bridge Flats, and the Mooring Flats. All those areas have been hot. There's been a lot of small fish in the mix, with larger fish focused on pinfish, pilchards, and mullet, even sand perch. They're really focused on bait fish more than shrimp, but you can put any of those baits under a saltwater assassin quick cork. You can throw a big pilchard colored saltwater assassin shad or a dye dapper. Average trout right now is 2 to 3 pounds, but we're getting them to 9 pounds this week. And I got a photo from Mike from Selfish Point. He got this nice trout around Nettles Island on a saltwater assassin pilchard colored shad. Good to see the trout coming back.
It sure is, Mike. All right, let's talk a little bit about the bass report. What do you got for us this week, Bo?
Yeah, the water level on Lake Okeechobee's dropped below 12 feet. That's pretty shallow, and it's pushed the bass into the deeper water areas along the outside grass lines. I was talking to Captain Mike Shellen of OkeechobeeBassFishing.com. He's saying to look for fish around any vegetation in the deeper water areas, including the boat trails, which seem to be holding a lot of fish right now, even with the boat traffic running through them. You can flip the holes in the grass with a June bug colored creature bait or an 8-inch worm, but right now this is the time to fish a frog in those same areas and do really well. The hottest bite on Okeechobee right now has been in the Kissimmee River, which has been on fire since they closed the locks. Big swim baits, Bass Assassin vapor sheds, and medium running crankbaits have all been working. Some anglers are reporting 50 fish days up in the Kissimmee River right now. So, on Lake Okeechobee, the river bites hot, the shallows are not. Find that deeper water.
All right, man. Thank you so much, Mike. Great report this week. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots. Mike says that inshore, the tarpon and the snook in Big Mud Creek. Try live mullet or saltwater assassin Houdini colored 4-inch sea shad, offshore sailfish, dolphin, kingfish, blackfin tunas in 120 to 180 feet of water off Sloan's Curve, slow troll, drift, or fish live pilchards off of a kite.
We have so many things going on around the state of Florida, and here's another one.
Wow.
Get ready and fish for a cause at the 19th annual Mother's Day Dolphin Tournament presented by Lichty Marine of Marathon and Suzuki. This angler tournament benefits Habitat for Humanity of the Middle Keys and offers over $9,000 in prizes for the heaviest dolphin caught in 4 separate divisions: Lady, Junior, Weekend Warrior, and Pro. This is a fun family event for new and seasoned anglers, so just scan the code or visit mothersdayDolphinTournament.com. But we've got your last grouper guru at attention, ready to report for duty in the Northwest region. So get ready for your Captain Jeff Hageman when we come back on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
That's right.
But before we go, one more thing. We want you to visit our website and check out our live studio audience dates coming up this season. Our next one is May 14th, so get signed up and come hang with us on set for filming, fishing, fun, and giveaways. Of course, we hope to see you soon, and we'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Fenwick, feel everything. Phillips and Jordan, building critical infrastructure that matters. Castaway Coffee, one taste and you'll be hooked. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy, fishing for adventure. Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome, and Taco Marine, master the catch.
Getting your boat on the water requires your full attention, and having a family with you is no easy task. That's why Power Pole is like having an extra set of hands, making a day on the water the best it could be with less stress and more time for fun with friends and family. Family fun made easy because of Power Pole, and that's your Power Pole tip of the week. Yes, Rick, that is your Power Pole tip of the week.
Yes, there's a lot of beautiful people in that Power
My
Pole
husband
tip.
is what you're
Your
talking
husband
about.
and your neighbor.
Oh yeah, Miss Sarah. All right, well, we might have saved the best for last because according to Jeff Hageman, the best gaggle of grouper is in the Northwest region. So let's get excited, Jeff.
Gag grouper can be found throughout my region. Our relatively shallow coast, limestone bottom. Our grouper fishery is probably one of the best in the state. From near shore to offshore, fish are found on flat limestone holes, rock piles, ledges, high relief structures, and wrecks. pinfish, pigfish are some of the favorite live baits to go to. Sardines and squid are some of the favorite cut baits. As far as artificials go, butterfly jigs and large lip trolling plugs are probably two of the most common in our region. We have gags, carbos, reds, scamps, yellow edges, snowies, kitty mitchells, warsaws, and goliaths, just to name a few, found on our coast in anywhere from depths of 4 feet of water on out to 700 plus feet of water. Heavy tackle is a must. High-speed reels, heavy action rods, pound mainline, 100-pound leaders. Some of the smaller butterfly jig outfits are really becoming common out there right now. And we have a really good shallow water wintertime grouper fishery where the gags get up in 6 feet of water and out to about 25, and you can catch them on big lip plugs, casting them out up over the rock piles and throwing them back to you. Poppers, you can chum them up with live sardines. It's really an incredible fishery up here. And for my photo for grouper this week, I have a beautiful Kitty Mitchell, one that I have not caught yet with Captain Crystal, caught above the Big Nasty.
All right, looking good.
Beautiful fish.
Yeah, man.
Captain Rob also reports right now out of St. Pete, the scamp bite has been really good in 160 to 180 feet of water over ledges and rock piles, and 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader, 8 ounces of lead, 6/0 trocar circle hook has been working really well with a live pinfish for bait. And I got a photo here from Captain Rob with a beautiful scamp and a nice little bag.
Wow.
Yep, you got it. All right, what do you got inshore?
Moving on inshore, Captain James Kerr out of Crystal River reports a good redfish bite right now. He said it's been fantastic. The bite has been really great on the high filing tide. Shrimp's been his bait of choice. There hasn't really been a consistency on location, so once you find them, he says, deep in that area, you're going to find a whole lot more and you'll catch them really good. Moving up to Steinhatchee, Captain Bobby Bradley, the Steinhatchee reports a great redfish bite. She's seeing schools right now in shallow water, 3 feet or less, along the shorelines, using a 1/4 ounce gold spoon, fan casting it, and drifting the area to locate them. She's just been moving along really slow, drifting in the flat and throwing that spoon. Water's been very clear, so the longer the cast, the better. And moving down to St. Pete, Captain Jim Pollard out of Big Daddy Sport Fishing reports a very strong redfish bite right now. Captain Jim's targeting his redfish with cut baits on the lower water, and then as the tides come up, he's switching over to live pilchards and chumming heavily. Captain Jim's using anywhere from 3 to 4 feet of fluorocarbon leader with a 3/0 trocar circle hook. Both methods for catching redfish has been really good. Depending on the bird activity, you might want to slow down your chumming a little bit or add a split shot to it to keep the birds away from you. And I got a couple redfish photos, one from Captain James Kerr with a bunch of nice redfish.
Yeah, man.
Pretty.
Looking good.
And a photo of a young angler from Steinhatchee with redfish from Captain Bobby.
All right. Thank you so much.
So cute.
Moving on to snook. I got one more if you want me to do it.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Snook bite's been really heating up. The water temperature's rising right now. Look for fish around the mangrove shorelines, docks, passes, bridges, with good current flow. Live sardines, either free-lined or corked. 25 to 30 pound fluorocarbon leader, a 3/0 trocar circle hook is your rig.
All right, man. Great report. Thanks for batting clean up. We're going to take a look at the Discover Crystal River hotspots from the Northwest region. Jeff says inshore, snook on the outgoing and the incoming tides on the beaches and the passes. And then offshore, mangrove snappers. The bite is in 20 to 50 feet of water over any high relief structure. Use shrimp and small sardines. Baits free line with lots of chum. What do you think, Bree?
Chum and they will come.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
You got it.
All right,
There
if
she
you're
is.
cruising around Florida, do it with a cause and rock the Conserve Florida's Fisheries license plate. Your $25 goes straight to supporting clean water, restoring habitats, protecting marine life, and teaching folks about our coastal environment. Make sure you get yours at your local DMV or online at redfishtag.com. And you know, we're all groupered out here and pass the baton to all of you anglers for opening season weekend. So get out there for your tasty catches, but stay with us so we can tell you what we're catching up next week.
Groupered out?
No,
How
never.
can you say that?
I didn't mean it. Alrighty, so next week we are talking tarpon. It is tarpon time, so make sure to tune in. Rick, I know that's your fish. Besides the redfish, tarpon is your thing, right? Yes. Okay, he's excited. All right, it's time to seize the social. You know, every week we're reeling in the best fishing and ocean vibes from your favorite social media feeds. So let's see what we found this week.
What did we
Let's
find?
roll it.
What did we
All right, we've got this really cool video. It's a Baits POV. Can you tell? Or do you think you're in a helium balloon? What's happening?
Now you know what it's like to be a ballyhoo flung across the place or whatever bait they're using.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's so cool to see this
That's
from
awesome.
the bait's perspective.
Yeah, I've always wondered.
I've never
when I'm
wanted
out
to be a
there,
bait. No?
No.
what they're thinking.
No, I don't want to be a
I could
bait.
really run with this, but I
Think-
think it's a
Go ahead.
family-oriented show.
Run.
I'll keep it. No. I want to stay on the air.
Okay. Great commentary, gentlemen. Very proud of you. You got a reel that made you laugh, gasp, or want to grab a rod? Make sure you send us your favorite fishing or ocean videos, and you might see them right here on Seize the Social. So to submit, scan the QR code or drop them in our DMs. But you know what, guys? We finished the show. That's it. We're going grouper fishing this weekend.
So Bree, 30 million baby clams
Yes, just
were
deployed.
using a drone.
10 million in one shot.
Yeah.
A drone.
A drone.
Yeah.
It was
That
pretty
is
neat
just
to
so
see.
cool.
Yeah, I got
With
video.
great technology.
You got video?
Thanks for
Check
watching,
his
guys.
Facebook page. See you next week.